Hello, you're listening to the Art Daily Sideshow. I'm your host, Artdelisideshow, and today we have some really funny and interesting takes on two viral videos. One of them is from Candace Owens, believe it or not, good friends of the show, just kidding. And the second one is from Nick Fuentes, an ex of mine, also just kidding. Both of these people have somehow become anti-Trump, liberty-loving, democratic icons, which, needless to say, is a complete distortion of reality and what their whole brand is actually about. We'll start off with the first video from Candace Owens from her show. She's, of course, not part of the Daily Wire. If you aren't familiar, she's like a super duper hardcore right-wing commentator, pundit. She also would call herself investigative reporter. I think some of her work is very interesting. Some of her other work is, controversial to say the least. Either way you look at it, she is an interesting participant in clown world. So I definitely just appreciate her for that. The second video is from Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is an interesting character, mostly because he is just so upfront and honest about what his opinions are that it almost comes off like he's being sarcastic and not serious. He was also January 6th insurrectionist. Somehow he didn't spend any time in jail. Some people speculate that he was flipped, as in turned into a Fed that day. I don't know. I'm not here to speculate. I'm just here wondering, why the hell are progressive news outlets platforming people like Nick Fuentes only because he's speaking against Trump? Now, both these videos, you have people who are very, very right-wing speaking against Trump, but not because he is too conservative. It's actually quite the opposite. They're speaking out against him because he's not keeping up his promise of making America great again. He's not keeping up his promise of America First. If you're unfamiliar, Nick Fuentes actually created the America First PAC, even though he was kicked out of CPAC, which is a conservative PAC, whatever, political action committees. Anyways, let's take a look at this first video. It's been making the rounds all around the internet. It's an interview that Candace Owens was having on her podcast with Carroll, who is, in my opinion, a three-letter agency, honeypot, because... Anyways, let's hear what they have to say.
Paying attention to this angle.
I think it's crazy. I mean, it's totally crazy for me to see the MAGA movement, which I thought was based on wanting, to go back to how America was, Christian beliefs, hard work. And, now we have a person who's effectively living at the White House who has been very explicit in what he believes in. He wants data. Okay. He is he's not in there because he's fun. And everyone's, you needed him for Doge. What are you talking about? You needed an accountant to accomplish Doge. This is so weird. And I think that our issue is that we glorify these technocrats in the same way that the left glorifies celebrities. It's like they're mesmerized by Elon Musk's money. They're mesmerized by his success in the same way that a leftist might have been mesmerized by Taylor Swift's success and therefore are willing to listen to her political things. He's never been fleshed out. There's never been a tough interview asking Elon Musk about how you're going to shrink the very same government that you take money from, that all of your businesses rely upon, that you have contracts with. And that's a very important question to ask him. It doesn't need to be hostile, but what do you believe in? It's not family, right? So if we're talking about making America great again, we're talking about when we are on the basis of when we were based on our families and people were not being replaced by AI robots and not aspirationally wanting everyone to drive a Tesla or an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want a gas guzzler forever because I know what comes with that is more control. I don't want
can't shut your car off
I don't
tell
want to be
you
able
how
to shut
far
my
you
car
can
off.
drive based on your social credit score.
Right. And I feel like Elon Musk needs to clarify what he believes on those issues because I don't want to become China. And I don't know that Elon Musk doesn't want to become China because that would enrich him. And I don't. Yeah. And when people instantly defend him, I'm going, Elon Musk was not MAGA yesterday. And now all of a sudden the MAGA can't question, original MAGA can't even question him because he's standing next to Trump. And so I certainly am questioning the circle of actors that are around Trump. And I have never felt good just on my spiritual vibes when it comes to Elon Musk. I feel he's a part of the Peter Thiel. We're just going to get all of these people in line with AI and it's going to be a tech future and we're going to combine robots with humanity and that will be that and we will do the thinking for you. Yeah. That's the vibe I get from these people.
Well, frankly, that's a completely reasonable take from Candace Owens. She is a conservative, and she's saying that the Conservative Party, which she is a part of, isn't really playing out its conservative values on the political stage. And when we take a look at the Trump administration, whether it's in the social kind of cultural light or in the policy light, it's kind of true. Candace Owens is an isolationist, and I think that she thought for some reason that Trump would be an isolationist also. That's not true, although Trump did campaign on ending all the wars all around, whether it's the Ukraine-Russia war or the Israel-Palestine war. He said that he's anti-war, and yet somehow the money keeps being churned out. So I understand her frustration there. I understand that she's been outspoken about being an isolationist, about being America first, same with Nick Fuentes, which we'll talk about a little later. She's just not seeing the America First platform being catered to. Also, I think her big qualm, just from what we heard, is Elon Musk. And again, I can understand why. First off, no one voted for him. He's really weaseled his way into the administration. And as she mentioned, he was not a conservative 5 minutes ago, and yet somehow he has a lot of pull. We've also seen, or at least word on the street is that Vivek Ramaswamy, who Candace Owens was a big fan of, a big supporter of, was kind of kicked out of Doge because of Elon Musk. Apparently Elon Musk is really difficult to work with, which I've never worked with him, but seeing from the way that he presents himself, he seems like he'd be really difficult to work with. But again, there's really nothing that Trump has said while campaigning that he isn't doing, whether it's from deportations or whatever. I mean, even his support to Israel, he's always said he's going to support Israel. So this whole back and forth of, well, why is he supporting Israel? Why is he talking to Russia? Why is he putting tariffs on the world? He literally said he's going to do all of this. But the point is, as we'll hear in the commentary, is that somehow this is being twisted online to kind of showcase that things are so bad that even Candace Owens is going against Trump. First of all, that's not at all what's happening, and without context, I can maybe see how people are getting that, but she wants him to be more conservative. She wants him to be more America first. She is disappointed that he is not as conservative, that he's more populist than she would like him to be. At no point did she say that she's not a conservative anymore. I think, if anything, her qualms, her grievances are coming from a deeply conservative place. So I don't understand how this at all can get misinterpreted. Anyways, let's listen to this getting misinterpreted.
Was getting paid to run one of the largest smear campaigns against Kamala Harris. I was crazy, right? But now she's trying to backtrack and blame it on Christianity as to why she no longer supports Trump. It's not Christianity that's got her concerned. It's the fact that they're not paying her anymore, and she thought that her husband in proximity to whiteness and slandering Kamala Harris was going to get her on the up and up with Trump. Promised her a seat, just like they promised everyone else a seat, but guess who didn't get one? Because they're still a black woman. And I don't know why you thought you were the exception. You were not the exception, you were the rule. Forget, you were posting 12 videos a day during the election talking about Kamala Harris and why no one should vote for her. Let's play the video.
But I want to say this, like, quite seriously. 4 years ago, in 2020, I had no kids. It's an incredible thing to think about. I had 0 children, and now I have 3 children. And I'm so serious when I say that I was so concerned about Kamala winning that my husband and I were having serious discussions about what will happen, what can we do, what is our option. And I know that we're not the only family that truly thought about where will we go if
you want to get on here and cry baby tears and say no one told you that Trump was going to be like this. He was never like this. Everybody told you. And you were going to college campuses with fucking Charlie Kirk debating feminists and black women, calling them wrong and saying they had equal privilege as a white man. They paid you for a job. You did that job. But see, just like everybody else that the Trump administration took that job from that they were offered during the election, you're not going to get that seat that you wanted. You're not getting the seat in the administration that you thought you were going to get. No black person ever was, especially not a black woman. And now you're trying to go back to your other blogging page to try to rekindle some of that money you were making during the election. Not happening, Candace. We know who you are.
Okay, that was a lot. That was a little unhinged, but, whatever. That's how she feels. So this person was talking about a smear campaign that is during the election, a couple of months leading up to the election. Candace Owens actually released I don't know if it was a 10-part series about Kamala Harris. The whole gist of it was Kamala Harris isn't black, she's Indian. That was the whole point. Candace Owens had some merch that said, "Make Kamala Harris Indian again." So just really silly stuff. But the whole point keeps being mentioned that Candace Owens is broke and that's why she's pivoting to the woke left. That's what the screen said. That's just not merely true at all as far as her pivot, as far as her money. I don't know. I'm looking at her YouTube numbers, and if she's monetized on YouTube, like, she's making money. She's raking it in. We're talking about like millions and millions of views, 4 million subs on YouTube. She's good. She also has like a husband that I'm pretty sure comes from wealth. And that's another thing that keeps popping up is her white husband. It's 2025. Like, it's okay to have interracial marriages. I don't know if people are aware of this, but you're allowed to marry outside of your race. Like, you won't go to jail for it. It's okay. Also, this creator keeps mentioning Candace isn't getting a seat at the table. With 4 million views, I feel like she is the table. Like, I don't know what really this person is talking about. Candace Owens actually interviewed Trump last cycle, and during his first term, she had a lot of things that she didn't like about the way that he was handling and conducting his business back then too. And it was actually conservatives who were saying, well, how dare you criticize Trump? He's the reason why you actually got platformed, because she did an interview with him which went viral. She wasn't promised a job ever. She does what she does. Also, just again, the whole talking point of she's black. That's why Trump doesn't like her anymore. She's black. Trump doesn't like her. Proximity to whiteness because of a white husband. That is idiot talk. You're talking like a crazy racist, dude. You're talking like a fucking idiot. And I shouldn't really go into ad hominems, but Candace Owens has an encyclopedia full of things that you can debate her on. She has an ocean full of bad ideas. And the only thing that people are getting stuck up on is that she's a black woman and that she's a conservative. That's fucking stupid. There's a lot of things that you can argue with her about, but her immutable traits and her having a white husband and mixed race kids is, that just goes to show how much you don't know about her platform. Anyways, we have a little bit more. So let's go listen to the next genius.
Candace Owens is running back to the left because even she is realizing just how bad she's fucked up. You see, Candace Owens is now backtracking and blaming it on Christianity as the reason as to why now she is not supporting Donald Trump, even though she was vehemently and unequivocally supporting him consistently over the past 4 years. Candace, you were so pro-Trump that it was an active rumor that you were actively running a smear campaign for Trump against Kamala Harris, since you were posting about 10 to 15 videos every single day running up to the election, telling everyone to not vote for her. Fact is, no amount of slander to Kamala Harris, nor your proximity to whiteness because of your husband, is going to get you in the good books with Trump when you are a literal black woman. It doesn't matter. Fact is, Candace, you and your mindless seal supporters can blame it on Christianity all you want, but quite frankly, what it looks like to everyone else, including me from across the pond, it just looks like you're not getting paid the pretty penny that you were, or that you thought that you were going to get paid once Trump actually got into office. You're upset that now you are also getting screwed over like the rest of the Americans.
Okay, another not fully coherent take, and this time from a British person. So you see, just because you have a British accent doesn't mean that you're smart. This person claimed that Candace Owens is down the left. That's not true. That's not true. There's more than just left and right. And just because someone is criticizing their political party doesn't mean that they automatically are for the opposing political party. If anything, that just goes to show how little loyalty you have for your own whatever it is that you say that you stand for. Like, come on, dude, you can criticize something without, being against it. Secondly, of course, proximity to whiteness has to enter the chat, and she's saying that between her proximity to whiteness because her husband is white and Candace's whole project against Kamala Harris before the elections with her whole Make Kamala Indian Again project, I really don't know what to call it, investigative journalism, it's like a 10-part series. They're saying that even with all of that work, Trump is still not going to want her. This is like an adolescent way of looking at the world, and it's actually quite silly. In addition to that, at what point did Trump say, Candace Owens, she's the best broadcaster in the world. I'm going to make her my press secretary once I become president. Like, he's never said, this is never a conversation, this was never a thing. And yet, for some reason, people keep saying, like, well, he doesn't even like you, you're just a black woman anyways. Candace Owens doesn't believe in dinosaurs. Like, she has a whole episode with millions of views. I think it's 2.1 million viewers, where she is interviewing someone about how the moon landing was fake. Like, there is, again, a plethora of things that you can discuss with her about, that you can debate, that you can point out as far as the contents of her work. But people are too busy just being like, wow, she's a black conservative and she sucks white dick, so I guess that makes her something or other. Like, this is incredibly silly. Anyways, here's another video, and this one is actually a really good jumping off point to actually having the conversation around what the hell is going on with Candace Owens.
Have y'all noticed Candace Owens has jumped ship? Now all of a sudden she's opposing everything Trump is doing. And what's her disdain with Elon Musk and RFK Jr.? She claiming that free speech is being censored to those who are protesting Israel and this and that. But Candy girl, you was all over this internet talking about the lady from France doing dissertations and explanations on what she identified as. Now you're just a Christian and you don't like the censorship that's going on, but you talk about anybody and everybody across this internet. Did you use the Republican Party to prop yourself up? Now I get, even though you allegiance to somebody, and if they do something that's not right and that you don't agree with, of course you step up and say something, because no one is above criticism. I get that. But your stance on why you're criticizing the Trump administration, RFK Jr., and Elon Musk, it has no weight to me. What is going on with Candace Owens? Ever since they let her go from the Daily Wire, she just been on this crusade, and everybody is doing her wrong, and she is being censored. But Candy said whatever she want up and down this internet. What y'all think? Candace Owens has left the Republican Party.
I rather enjoy that last video. I love that this poster called Candace Owens Candy Girl. She said Candy Girl is all up and down this internet. That's hilarious, because it's true. Let's start with a couple of great points that this poster made. The RFK Jr. and Elon Musk disdain. That's a great word, because that does come off as she's like there's like something personal there. Her big issue with RFK Jr. at least is something that has to do with Israel. She has it on her most recent post. And Elon Musk, as you heard in the earlier video, just his whole tech background and him not being conservative 5 minutes ago, and then all of a sudden being platformed by the Republican/conservative party. Then, as the poster said, Candy Girl complaining about censorship, but publishing work that's reaching millions and millions of people. Again, the work around the French Prime Minister's wife / husband, as Candace Owens calls it, Mr. and Mr. Macron. It has millions of views, it's like going international. So she can talk about being censored, but how can you be censored and have millions of views? I don't quite understand that. But we're always hearing the grift around people being censored and censorship, blah 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 blah. I'm making so much money off of talking about censorship because everyone can hear what I'm saying. It is an age-old grift that we should be used to by now. The poster said that her stance for criticizing has no weight, and that Candace Owens has been on a crusade since being fired by the Daily Wire. It does seem as though Candace Owens has been on a crusade ever since being fired by the Daily Wire. You'd think that she'd be on the fringes of conservative podcasting, whatever, but she's leading the marks. She's definitely up there with Joe Rogan, or at least she was, in the last few weeks. We're, again, talking about millions of hits. So it definitely seems as though she is re-solidifying her stances as an independent entity, not with the Daily Wire. Obviously, October 7th and her criticism around Israel post-October 7th has pretty much been the nail in the coffin for her getting kicked out. Now, some people were having conversations about how the Daily Wire was happy to keep Candace Owens on when Candace Owens was talking about BLM, Black Lives Matter, and how it's all a grift, and how, I understand she didn't like George Floyd. She was very outspoken about his history, about his background before the infamous incident. So yeah, there's definitely like a lot. I mean, she was ostracized for her opinions around that. Ostracized is like a very gentle word. She's hated by some people because of her stances around BLM and George Floyd. But all of that to say, she is not moving to the left in any way whatsoever. She's not changing her stances as far as her values. She has been leaning into her Christianity. She is a self-proclaimed, I think, Catholic. To say that her stance around criticizing Trump has no weight to the person who posted this last video, well, okay, you can say that you don't believe her, but this is what she says. And her actions have somewhat been, well, I shouldn't say that since she does platform people like Andrew Tate. So, I'm actually with you on that poster, that last person. I'm with you. I'm team you. Because Candy Girl's been all up and down this internet. Anyways, I think it's pretty clear that Candace Owens is not, quote unquote, flipping the script on anyone. She's not a leftist. She's not a liberal. She's not progressive in any way. She is a conservative. That's all she ever claimed to be. And if anyone wants to misconstrue the things that she's saying and her grievances against the Trump administration as to say she's anti-Trump and now she's a liberal, well, that's just a bad take and not true. You can look at the scope of her work and understand that she's very much a conservative, and any kind of grievances that she has against Trump make sense from a very conservative point of view. Speaking of conservatives, you'd be amazed at this clip that I saw on Instagram from Now This Media.
Liberals were right fundamentally about Trump. Whether he has good intentions or bad intentions, whether he means well or not, some people blame his advisors, some people blame people around him. Whatever you think about his culpability, he is in effect, okay, maybe not consciously or intentionally, but in effect, what he is a demagogue. What he is a populist demagogue. And directionally, what liberals said about him, which is that he was stirring up the rubes, animating the rubes with nativist rhetoric and ginning up resentment against the system to empower himself and the people around him, and then brought the swamp closer to the periphery in his first and second administration, willing to say and do anything. Yeah, that all kind of turned out to be true. Yeah, that basically turned out to be true.
Strong words coming from Nick Fuentes. And again, pretty shocking to see Now This Impact post this. Now This is apparently a progressive kind of news outlet that's aimed towards Gen Zers and millennials. So most of them have an idea who Nick Fuentes is, and if they don't, then they have it right there on the video. Black on white, white nationalist Nick Fuentes finally sees Trump for who he is. Under it, the caption, it says, "It only took Trump 2 months to lose the faith of one of his most rabid supporters, Nick Fuentes." Yikes. If you are familiar with Nick Fuentes, his material and what he's been saying, let's say, for example, since the election, it's been way longer than 2 months since Nick Fuentes didn't mess with Trump anymore in the way that he did in 2016. Mostly, as he mentions, when he says things like he's letting the swamp in, he doesn't just necessarily mean millionaires or billionaires like Musk. He's also talking about Vivek Ramaswamy, for example, who Nick Fuentes doesn't like because he's Indian. Nick Fuentes is not really happy about black people and women being in the cabinet. He's also not thrilled about Jewish people being around Trump, and says that they're all somehow supported by Israel, which may or may not be true. But in a second, you'll understand why Nick Fuentes isn't really... Basically, I personally am not going to give Nick Fuentes the benefit of the doubt, and I'm assuming that he's not coming from a good faith argument, just because I've seen his work. So when I saw, news outlets and just kind of the commentary around Candace Owens' video, and then now seeing all the commentary around this video from Nick Fuentes, I'm thinking, why the hell is this even being published as a legitimate or relevant rebuke of Trump in any way? And I get it. The outlets are the conversation is trying to portray it as though, wow, you see, even these people who are, like Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, who are considered on the fringes and such extremists, even they're opposing Trump. If the enemy of your enemy is Nick Fuentes, is that really someone who you want as a friend? Because the phrase goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I don't know if Nick Fuentes is someone that you would like to call a friend just because he doesn't like Trump. Just like with Candace Owens, it's because he's not being conservative enough. If you aren't familiar with Nick Fuentes, then I'm just going to go ahead and play this little clip where he kind of talks about, he's just talking, and this is off of his stream, and this is from within the last 20 days. I think this will give you a good idea of who he is. You might say I'm picking and choosing. Then you go on his stream and you send me a clip that is more complimentary than this one. Anyways, let's give it a listen so that we have a bit more of an idea of who Nick Fuentes is.
Yes, they think they're using us Mexicans who make up the majority of the alt-right movement. It's going to be a rude awakening for them. It will be a rude awakening for anyone who is not Latino. Now, that's a joke, of course. Yeah, those people are just freaks. Anyone that has any genuine racial hatred, we have to just say there's something wrong with you. I understand not wanting to live around black people. I get it. And I understand when you see what black people do, some of them, I understand hating that. But this whole like autistic racial, like actual racialism, actual racial militant hatred, it is like a freak show, you know, because that comes from an emotional place. It is one thing to say that, like, there are whites and blacks. Black people clearly are not on our level of development, and that's why they're struggling. That's why they're not integrating well, and that's why there are these problems. Like, it's one thing to say that clinically, and it's one thing to see what they do and get frustrated by it and get angry about it. It's a whole other thing to have this, like, persistent, like, antipathy for vast groups of people. That is just like a low IQ, dysfunctional thing. And everything, oh, well, but that doesn't make you mad. It's like, yeah, it makes me mad. I'm not filled with like racial hatred for an entire group. Even the Jews, even the Jews, as much as justified as it would be. No, you know, but even like I do actually like a lot of Jewish people. Like I even though Jewish people have ruined my life in many ways and like they do horrible things, I don't have a hatred for them as a group. And I could say nice things about them, you know? But that comes from being a Christian. That's the kind of peace and that's the kind of disposition that you can only have if you love God, if you truly have love in your heart for people. And it's no coincidence. It's always these pagans that harbor this intense animosity all the time. And if you have that, you really got to get over that. And that doesn't mean you need to stop being racist. It doesn't mean you got to stop being a quote unquote racist, but you got to let go of wrath. You have to let go of anger. You can't let that define you. And especially autistic to like hate Italians of all people. Like what level of fucking role play are you on? The year is 2025. We are besieged from all sides by blacks and Jews and Mexicans and Indians. And you're autistically angry about Italians. You would have to like work at that. That is like a self-conscious role play. Like I'm pretending to be a hardcore racist. Italians are, it's like, what are Italians doing in 2025? Organized crime isn't even a thing. Italians are completely assimilated. What do Italians do? The only thing that is offensive that Italians do is they pretend to be more Italian than they are. That's the only offensive thing Italians do anymore. The only problematic behavior is that Italians play up this like Italian caricature and it's super annoying. That's it. Other than that, all they do is make the good food. What's the fucking problem?
Well, that escalated kind of quickly. You know, sometimes you're just going to have to let people talk and listen to them and then use your discernment. I think that Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes have years of work that people can tap into if, you know, folks are interested in what they have to say. But to try to rewrite the narrative in some way as to say Trump has become so extreme that even crazy people like Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes are now refuting him or are now rebuking him, I think that is totally disingenuous and a little bit dangerous because now it creates this type of effect where, as we heard, people, for example, in the first video where people were talking about Candace Owens and all the commentary around that, no one was actually refuting her ideas. No one was refuting anything that she has to say in her conservative values or her politics. They were all just attacking her for being a black conservative who's married to a white dude who has mixed kids. That type of disingenuous rebuttal, I mean, that's not even, you're just attacking her for immutable characteristics. You're just being a racist, dude. So you're not even refuting her opinions or her thoughts or anything that she has to say. You're just attacking her for who she is. And so let's say someone watches it and they're like, well, let me hear what this woman has to say. They're walking in without any kind of ammo to the type of propaganda that Candace Owens spews. Like you're setting people up for failure. But the difference is Candace Owens at least has somewhat of a range, let's say, for her material. It's not only political, right-wing propaganda and conservative stuff. She also has her bit about Hollywood and the Macrons and all this type of stuff and other things that she taps into. Nick Fuentes, though, as you just heard, a little clip from his video, the type of rhetoric that he has is a lot more dangerous and it's pretty dark. I think that to create a type of progressive tanky to Nick Fuentes pipeline, only because the one common denominator you have is hating Trump, is batshit insane, because I just played a video of what Nick Fuentes says, as the kids say, nasty work and absolutely diabolical. My name is Art Delinsky, and I've been talking about the mischaracterization of Miss Candy Owens and Nick Fuentes, trying to paint them out as to be anti-Trump or somewhat liberal, when that is not the case at all. Malcolm X once said something along the lines of, watch out for those fucking newspapers, because they're going to make you think crazy people are sane, and that sane people are your enemies. Take care of yourself and each other. This has been the Art Deli Sideshow.